Okay.
So we're live now.
So we are live, but how many people are there? I can't see that.
18.
18, but there were more than 100. I think
150, something like that.
Yeah.
So I hope
So we have to somewhere announce that everyone should join again.
I hope they just join again.
Let me give the message.
Can't hear you. Actually, we can't hear you. We can't hear you, actually.
Yes, sir, there was some network problem, sir. I'm asking the audience to kindly refresh their screen so that it will be fine. And we are also trying to connect with Dr. Robertson.
No, but how will you ask them?
Yes, sir, in the chat box, sir. I'm writing them to refresh.
But they are not there.
Only 21 people are watching right now.
I'm just telling everyone because I have their WhatsApp group.
Okay.
We've got 25 people. Maybe you can just start answering questions.
But how they can put question? I have told them people are going to join quickly.
Okay.
But my point is how they can put questions to us.
In the chat function, I think they can put a question.
Yes.
Can you see? Yes, but we can't see any question.
No.
No, for the moment, no.
Because I think critical people have still not joined.
For sure. I mean, we're at 31 attendees right now.
They say no. They say the chat is disabled. So host has to.
That's something for access to do that.
Host has to do it.
Oh, yeah. Disabled. That's better.
He says chat is disabled for the.
I think it was just switched on what I saw on my screen.
So they say we cannot put questions. I am getting. Yes, Vipin, go ahead. Vipin, go ahead. Please ask question.
So the chat is working. Okay, cool.
Yes. Now it started. Frederik is also there. Yes, Vipin, go ahead. Please ask question.
You'll have to write it in the chat.
Okay.
Please write your questions in the chat because we don't have the capacity to give you to put you live.
Yes, Anjali, go ahead. You can ask question. Write in the chat box. Bipin, Anjali, please write your questions. Meanwhile, people are joining. 44 people have joined back. Yes, we can answer one or two questions, then we can go to Robert and.
So on a technical note, Raj, are you host now?
I don't know. I don't have that. I don't know whether I have as access. I think we all have same access.
Okay. So Frederik, you can join.
Yes. Frederik says he cannot join.
Yeah, because
Yeah. Now
here.
there is a question from
there's a
Doctor.
question. Yoo-hoo.
There's one question, Doctor from Anjali.
Yeah.
That in a cluster analysis.
Okay, so I can answer that.
Yes, two picture of Brainia was told. What was the difference and how can it be explained? What were the probable reason for the two pictures of Brainia?
Okay, so that's a very good question, and actually, it was a surprise, and so there seems to be. I mean, I actually can't give you the answer to that particular question. Because I don't know actually at this point. But what was really interesting is that to see that within what we would call Brownia, then there were two clusters. What we saw in a different analysis, which I haven't presented today, was that there was Brownia cases, Gelsemium cases, and in a third group, which was kind of a mixed group, and of Brownia and Gelsemium, which was kind of a mixed group. And then when we looked at the symptoms from that group in detail with Yvonne, we actually found that it was best suited for a different remedy than Gelsemium and Brownia. It was a much smaller remedy that covered that particular cluster of symptoms. But it was a very small group. But we're really interested in finding out what's happening when you really look at the data in this particular way. Is there suddenly a new cluster appearing where there's a remedy maybe that is not very common, but actually statistically appears, and that we might have to think about more, and we're just not used to prescribing it, but it comes out statistically. So I hope that answers the question, and also how we're thinking about it, and what we hope to be able to show in the future. So this idea that maybe there are remedies that we're not using, but they are actually appearing as symptomatic pictures. We're just, as a community, not used to prescribing those remedies. So that's an interesting thing.
Okay. There is another question. How do we analyze these cases and statistical framework for this platform? There's a question from Kamal Rawal.
And so when you input the data into the database, then so it's quite a big computational platform. I then get the data, and I have statistical software to do that type of analysis. And so, for example, also we're working with Dr. Lex Rutten, who also has his own way of analyzing the data. And so at this point, we encourage people who have specific questions and specific research questions and the capacity and the know-how to analyze data like this to come forward, and because maybe they have interesting questions that we haven't thought about, and they might want to analyze the data in a different way. So it's kind of like the data is being generated, and there's many ways of looking at it. So if anybody who has a training in statistics and to look at it, then they're welcome to contact us to put forward a protocol of analysis that we can then work together and create a different type of analysis than the ones I presented, for example. For example, Lex, that's what he's doing.
Thank you, Lex. Actually, Dr. Kamal Rawal, in addition to homeopathy, he has qualification in biostatistics and is working with us managing our platform. So I think he can contact you. So I think
we would be very interested.
He has knowledge of artificial intelligence, how to use that data. So I hope that he'll be of some use to us. Now then there is a question from Dr. Bipin.
Yeah.
There are two queries in Clificol. Can we assess progress through grading of symptoms? I mean, can objectively quantify improvement? Secondly, can the outcome be assessed cluster-wise?
So
Anyone?
should I answer that? So,
Yeah.
Okay. So first question is the grading of symptoms. So the progress through grading. So we're using the Oridal score, which indeed is a subjective score on behalf of the homeopath ascribes this score to the progress of the symptom. It is subjective and therefore open to criticism. And so in that sense, lacks complete objectivity. The issue we have in this kind of basic case registry program is that we cannot expect normal homeopaths to have more sophisticated ways to generate more objective outcome measures. So this is one of the limitations of a case registry, is that we cannot provide the best objective measure that we would wish, such as in a placebo-controlled trial, where we would have objective PCR tests and so on to measure and more standardized tests that would give a more objective outcome measure. So in this case, it just underlines that the ambition of a case registry is a bit lower, in the sense that we want to have a good picture of the real data that is being seen, or the real patients that are being seen by the homeopaths and what they're seeing. So we know that's a limitation, but within that limitation, there's still a lot that we can do and say about the real practice of homeopathy in this population. Cluster-wise, I hope I've answered that question just before. If not, please detail a bit more your question.
Alex, I would like to add, you hear me?
Yeah.
I would like to add to the reason why we have chosen the Oridal to evaluate the case, because there are some other projects, and it has been suggested in our brainstorming team to evaluate the case along a set of criteria, like fever, coughing, sneezing, whatever. And we have chosen to not go that direction for two reasons. First of all, even if you only take fever, you know that the percentage of people with COVID don't have fever. It's an important percentage. So the criteria becomes like, you would need to, in the end, have many criteria, 10, 20, 30, 40, which some projects suggest. But then at that time, when you say we will use, let's say, 25 different criteria to evaluate the case, we go away from our basic idea. We want to offer a tool so anybody can participate in research, because then you would need for every consultation to tick on and off 25 different replies again and again to evaluate the case. And in the end, we believe that the Oridal case, which is a quite accepted homeopathic scale, originally created by David Riley, etc. You know the history of it, the Gosh scale, etc. is also a more homeopathic way, because we don't want to evaluate the case, is he coughing more or less? No, we want to take the whole case and look at the other aspects that Robert is also emphasizing, like is there a return of old symptoms, reverse of chronic reverse order of symptoms, is there improvement of the mind as opposed to improvement of the logos, etc. So the Oridal for us is like the most close way to do a quick, correct homeopathic evaluation of the case.
Thank you, Frederik. So I think now I will request Robert to kindly discuss about the qualitative case analysis and whatever you want to do, whenever you want to say.
Thank you, Raj. Yes, I think that what really excites me about the Clificol project, that there is this true vision to engage in this global collaboration, and not just between homeopaths and researchers, but also between researchers between themselves, homeopaths between themselves. And I think just in this short webinar, I think this was illustrated, because I think what we need, what's very important, is that we've so far spoken about these quantitative aspects of a case registry, that you collect basic quantitative data. But I think what's missing in this total mosaic is the qualitative element. And within the Liga, I'm involved in coordinating the clinical COVID-19 clinical case reporting project, which focuses on individual clinical case reports. And why this is so important, we've already seen just what Alex mentioned when they say we see a mixed cluster that apparently doesn't fit completely in the one remedy picture or in another, that may actually need a completely new or different remedy. And he said, well, the case registry, the quantitative data gives a certain signal in this regard, but we don't really understand what this signal means. And so this is really touching, I think, on this qualitative dimension, that what if we were to be able to access 10 or 5 or 10 of these cases that are in this mixed cluster and to analyze those cases in detail. Now, that would really give us a wealth of understanding about what's going on in the quantitative data. So really my message here is, without speaking too long, is that we need to mix the qualitative and the quantitative elements, and we can only achieve that if we truly collaborate as a global homeopathic community. And I'm hope that many others will join me in this in the activities that the Clificol team is organizing to establish these connections and to really look at the synergy between the different projects.
Okay. So Robert, now you have been working with us and our data collection project also, even in our project of this preventive study also. Mm-hmm. Seeing our strengths and limitations, so how do you feel that we can use this Clificol platform with the officers we have? Because you know most of them through virtual platforms or otherwise. What is your view and what are the areas where we should work as a team?
Yes, well, I think what would be interesting, I think, from the Indian team is to use the Indian team as kind of it's what we call a lighthouse project to really start linking the quantitative and the qualitative. Because the problem with the project now globally is that a lot of quantitative data is coming in from all over the world, but they are usually individual homeopaths. Maybe they're clinics which are small clusters of homeopaths. But I think in the Indian situation, we have the big advantage of a cluster of relatively well organized and connected homeopaths. So it would be very interesting to say, okay, let's have a look at some of the data that you contribute and see what we can then extract. Maybe 2 or 3 clinical case reports linked to that data so that we can really make that connection between the quantitative and the qualitative. And then in this smaller group, organize a video link exchange and to say, okay, right, this is what the quantitative data says. These are the kind of questions that are raised by your quantitative data, the kind of hypotheses that we can generate from that. And then we say, okay, now we have some detailed clinical cases from that data set and bring these 2 elements together. Because I think that's when we can really get this more synergistic kind of discussions. What can we learn and how can we further improve maybe even the quantitative part? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. But like today, one of the main objective of today's this program was to have that capacity building of our team and using Clificol efficiently. And I hope that after this meeting, they can do it. But will they be able to access to the data individually, or we as a group of 100 doctors in Delhi, because working on the COVID projects or different projects, can there be a same password and we can have data collectively analyzed what is happening in different parts of Delhi, or it necessarily has to be a total global picture from the programming point of view? Yes, Alex.
In principle, first thing, we can have India as a whole, and also if people have inputted the zip code, we should be able to then work by zip code.
No. The reply is, I'm sorry, the reply is a little different. Carlo has shown this slide with the 4 circles. You remember this?
Yeah.
And this means that you could say one circle is this hospital in Delhi. And you become the project manager of that hospital. You appoint these people to enter data in that cloud within the cloud.
Okay.
And that can be, how shall I say, maintained as a separate set of data.
Okay.
And then if agreed, another hospital may do the same, or another city may do the same. They can be put together, but we do have the structure in our database to not just act as one cloud where everything is mixed, but we can from the start define what we call projects.
Okay. And with Clificol, Radar Opus is automatically linked, or you need to have a separate program for that?
Carlo?
To link to what? To create some group?
No. Like Fok shown us that she can lift all the symptoms from the Radar Opus to the Clificol. So you need to have Radar Opus along with Clificol. You can work independently with Clificol
you can work independent from Radar Opus to any software. No, the only important is that you know in which way you have to codify the information in the reading symptom that you take. You can also, if you write mind, anxiety, cough during, it take mind, anxiety, cough during. So also if you work with the repertory by paper, not by software, without any problem. So you can use Clificol without any other additional software.
But then anybody will write symptoms in different ways. It is not necessary that everyone will.
This is a problem. Yes, of course. This is a problem because we think in the conversion table between the symptoms codified in synthesis, symptom codified in a complete repertory, symptom codified in other repertory. If we want to make real statistics, we have to create a conversion table with different repertory. Okay, but this is a secondary step. The first step is you can use Clificol without any additional software. It's our task to create a conversion table later on. When we find some symptoms not codified in a correct way, we create an automatism to change the symptoms in a codified way. So we can manipulate. We can standardize the data. Okay.
Okay. I also welcome Dr. Jean Champin from Netherlands. Welcome, sir. Would like to say something during this webinar? Please welcome to say, because now we are towards the last leg of this webinar. Please.
Yeah, I'm a member of this scientific committee in Clificol, and I came in via ECH. This is the European Committee for Homeopathy. And we also endorse this complete project, not only because it helps maybe the COVID epidemic, but it is also, in our view, a powerful infrastructural tool to investigate homeopathy, not just to prove it or to make sure it is effective, but even better, that we can improve best practices within the homeopathic community itself. What are the best potencies to use in a certain situation? What are usual follow-up durations? This type of questions. And I have seen in other areas of medicine that registries like this one have lifted up certain professional groups to a higher level of acceptance, because it just shows, it makes transparent what are we actually doing. And an important other area that lies behind the pandemical problem now would be to the role of homeopathy to prevent antimicrobial resistance against antibiotics, and also in future epidemics, which the scientists say they will come anyway. So for us as ECH, the Clificol is not just COVID, it's also a step up to further research to further improve the position of homeopathy. And also, especially to inform not only doctors, but also policymakers, insurance companies, to show what is actually done by homeopathy. This is just an extra dimension that I see here.
Okay, great. So another point, I was just wondering that how this Clificol project can ultimately help us in doing some randomized controlled trials in future. Will be able to standardize some prescriptions, or is going to be individual phenomena? So I would just like to know if you have any plan for that.
You ask me?
Anyone, Alex, Frederik, or any of the panelists who feels that is there a necessity of going for randomized control trial, especially in treatment, whether mild cases, moderate cases, or severe as an add-on or otherwise? So whether this can somewhere help in that. Anybody, please go ahead. Robert?
Well, yes, I think this is really the essence of partly of Clificol, to provide solid foundations for clinical trials, because I think the idea is that I think we all agree that, and ultimately to have the maximum impact, we need positive randomized controlled, placebo-controlled, or comparative randomized trials. That will achieve the maximum impact. But there is still homework sometimes that we have to do before we engage in such a trial, because it's also a higher risk kind of scenario, because you can have a maximum positive impact, but if you fail and you don't get a positive result, then it's also a more maximized negative impact. So to create a foundation where you say, really, before we engage in this, we've really done our homework, we've really improved our homeopathic systems as much as possible. And again, this is really about creating a connection between the different projects. For instance, when Lex Rutten validated his app for the acute COVID-19, he also used for the validation a case series that was published by the Hong Kong group in homeopathy. And again, that's an example how individual cases or individual case series was useful as a feedback loop to improve a quantitative tool. And again, so I repeat, my main message for today is that you need these mixed methods to calibrate what we are doing in homeopathy. Now, once that's optimally calibrated, then we're ready for that next step with a maximum success chance, which would be randomized controlled trials in a number of cases.
Lex, please.
So in that respect,
thank you, Robert. Lex.
In that respect, just to carry on from what Robert said, with the Clificol platform, we're also looking at ways to help in the data gathering for clinical trials. So that's, we're looking ahead at ways the platform can help in different ways. So one of the ways that we're being approached for is data gathering for clinical trial. And also, in that respect, I want to tell the audience that we're not only looking at acute COVID, but we're making now adaptations so that, it's already in there that you can do long COVID. So we know that there's a lot of cases coming out of long COVID. And so this will also be in the database, so people can input their long COVID cases and you'll be able to analyze those. That should be very interesting as well.
Okay. Thank you, Lex. And any of the panelists would like to give final comment before we close this platform? Any? Robert,
Carlo. Finish the question from Dr. Bipin.
Yes, please. Please go
about comorbidity. Yes.
Oh, yes.
We would like to do a finer analysis and look what happens when we cluster, look at different comorbidities, how they present in terms of symptomatic presentations. That's something that we want to do as well. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Lex.
Okay.
Dr. Jin Shampa, anyone?
Oh, we just want to thank the Indian community and
No.
that for the
I will thank all
opportunity.
of you.
This is
That
important.
I will thank all of you that you have spared so much time for us. And now I hope that our team will be able to use Clificol in a more efficient way. And let us see in times to come, when the data will come, I'll have discussion with Alex and Fok and try to find one zip code. And let us try to use that zip and see how many cases we are able to upload, whether from the past or from the upcoming COVID cases, because we have sufficient number of cases even now in different institutions, and they have not yet uploaded their experiences. Now, the type of leverage you have told that you can upload the old cases, even if you have recorded. So I think there is a possibility, but someone has to sit and do that meticulously. And let me have separate meeting with my team and see to what extent we'll be able to do that. So I hope we'll be able to contribute significantly in this Clificol Action 2020.
We are there to assist you in any way. We have two dedicated technical support people, so everything is set up to make it a great experience for you.
Sure. So we'll be in touch with Bijan and their team. So I will take their help also in that way.
Okay.
So thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye. So now host has to end. I don't know who is the host now.
I think Robert is
the host now.
Am I the host? Okay.
Yes, I think.
So I'm going to eject everybody then. So
goodbye.
finally I have the power.
Yeah.